I understand how important he is to the Penguins franchise. I understand and remember where the Penguins were before he got there, which is almost in Hamilton, like a foot out the door.
They were disgraceful.
And they were bankrupt.
They were worse than, arguably, like the Buffalo Sabres of the past, like
embarrassing.
God knows
run.
how
Yeah,
long.
they're terrible.
Like they get the first overall pick. People forget the first one was Flower. It was Fleury. And immediately we're like, they're ruining him. Like in the middle, there's an 18-year-old who's in the NHL and getting shelled every night he's in the NHL, but he's also not in the NHL because they can't afford to pay him. And, it was a catastrophe.
And if you remember back far enough, and this is before we were born, Mario Lemieux was the same. Penguins were a catastrophe, had been for a decade. They wouldn't pay Mario what he wanted in his rookie deal, because remember back then there was no structured rookie deals. They just were what they were. So when the Pittsburgh Penguins selected him in, I think, the 1984-1985 draft, he refused to get up and put on the jersey. He stayed in his seat. The cameras went to him, and he just sat there with his really cool 80s mullet. He had a good mullet. And, and so, Josh goes on to say, Crosby's loyalty should be celebrated this season. And I'm sure it will be. We should probably appreciate his pain tolerance, too. This season, he'll have to deal with the growing pains of a young team. He will probably have to deal with goaltending that will cost him even more games than it should. Absolutely. Wow. He'll have to deal with a team that's not in championship mode. And the most painful of all, hang on.
Sure.
He'll have to watch Malkin's farewell tour.
I think that's disrespectful to Tristan Jarry because he has voiced repeatedly that he's trying.
Here's where Josh sort of gets to the crux of his argument, and I'm obviously not reading his entire article word for word because that's not what we need to do here.
No.
The best stories is towards the end. The best stories deal with some pain before the glory. Most of Crosby's career has been a parade of glory, but the pain of the last few years have been real. And the storm is probably going to get worse before the possibility of that wonderful ending presents itself. And he's talking specifically about Malkin. Dubas has already said, listen, we're going to have a chat with him around trade deadline, see what he wants to do. We know Rust is going to get traded eventually. We know Raquel is going to get traded eventually. We think Carlson might get traded because the bonus is paid now and the actual money owing is a lot cheaper, and he can go to a team with abundance of cap space that doesn't have to pay him that much, but it's still a cap thing.
Yep.
So we know that. What some in the hockey world sadly don't understand is that, to Crosby, this kind of story is so much more appealing than the idea of playing elsewhere. Maybe it doesn't seem appealing to you or me, but to him, it is. He's a little different from the rest of us, and it's a good thing for the Penguins. His pride in the organization and the city is so deep that I suspect he will stick around long enough to ensure everything is back on track with the Penguins. It's going to take a while. And that's how he ends it. Now, I think I have a few issues with this. Okay. And I'm not in the dressing room with Sidney Crosby after every game like Josh is. So I'm going to start with that asterisk. I would like to know how anyone knows what Sid thinks about this. To put this on the sentence that bothers me is what some in the hockey world sadly don't understand is that to Crosby, this kind of story is so much more appealing than the idea of playing elsewhere. According to who?
I think a lot of people in sports, this isn't a shot at Josh.
It's not at all. This is not a let's dunk Josh's head in the toilet tour. This is a Pittsburgh versus the world story.
Yeah, like I've spoken to many players. A lot of them at length and a lot of them multiple times. And sometimes I have to remind myself, you don't know him.
Of course not.
You don't know this guy. And, it's different than covering a beat. I know. But I think, Jesus, some of these people have covered Crosby for a generation.
Josh would be one of them.
Yeah, he started playing 20 years ago. That's crazy. I think this is season 20, or was last season 20?
Doesn't matter.
Played forever. That is, I think, one of the most interesting things about Sidney Crosby is I don't think any of us know him.
I didn't even know until I asked CJ if he was dating.
I'm like,
does he have a girlfriend? And he's like, yeah, he does. She was on the ice for.
You can Google that.
You can Google that?
Yeah.
There was
Did you try Google before you
no, screw
texted
it.
him?
I would have thought that would have come up sometime. You know? I guess I could have Googled it, but like...
No, but like that has.
So the AI Gemini says Sidney Crosby once dated somebody, but it's probably unclear. It's like...
He's got a longtime girlfriend, and the funny thing I think amongst Penguins fans is he won't put a ring on her, but because he's always chasing the next ring in the league. You know?
I like that.
But he has a longtime girlfriend.
Well, since he's done doing that, apparently.
Because he wants to be done. That's more appealing to him. So this is the thing. If you're going to write that sentence, and this is where, again, I'm not criticizing Josh's writing, but if he was on the podcast with me, I'd be like, how do you know that? You got to give me something.
You don't think he has insight on what's going on?
I know, but
I think he does.
Sources
He obviously
say, people in his camp, like anything.
Read it again. I think
What some in the hockey world sadly don't understand is that to Crosby, this kind of story is so much more appealing than the idea of him playing elsewhere. I think you got to say, well, sources in his camp, or he's alluded to this, or here's a quote from last season that backs up what I'm dropping. That's a big sentence to drop. And maybe I'm not questioning that. I'm not questioning Josh's work. I'm going, but like, show me your work. Show me your work. Give me something that says that. Now, is that probably true? I think right now it probably is. So, I don't think Josh is out of hand. I think the argument, though, that it's somehow glorious and that Sid somehow has control about getting the Penguins back on track is far-fetched. Because the team is currently for sale. I think the reason he's not going to get traded, at least for now, is that the team's for sale. And it's
Crosby obviously makes them more valuable.
Exactly. You trade Crosby, knock $80 million off the price.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like
probably more.
So that part of it, from a business perspective, that makes complete sense. If Sid wants to stay all the way through this painful rebuild or the first couple of years of it, I mean, Mario did that, but Mario also like owned a little bit later on, I guess. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, you're telling me that you know what Sidney Crosby's thinking. And that the entire hockey world around him, and that goes back to last summer when CJ first broached the subject on his show, and people got out of joint about that.
because Crosby at the time did not have a contract extension.
That's right.
Yeah.
And CJ merely broached the fact of it's possible he's not going to be here in a couple years.
It was interesting that we had reached early or late July, I guess early August, because he signed it, second week of August, first week?
Yeah.
And that he still wasn't signed.
It was
through the next season. Not that.
I think it's insulting to question CJ asking a very legitimate question, which is, hey, the greatest player in the history of this franchise, greatest player of his generation, top 5 forward all time, probably by the time it's all said and done, Stanley Cup champion, gold medalist, Hart Trophy, scoring title. It's a little weird he's not signed right now.
Signed through the next season.
Yes.
Like he's eligible for an extension. It wasn't like he was a UFA, right?
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, it's weird that he's eligible to sign through past this season. He hasn't done it.
And they stink. And at that point, they had admitted they stunk too. At that point, they're like, we're going for the playoffs. Like, shut up. So I understand while this sale is pending, and there's 2 groups involved. There's the Mario Lemieux group that's way late on this. And then there's the other group that I'm not really certain too much about them. I don't think Crosby gets traded in that time. Do I think, when I hear Greg Wyshynski talking about the fact that he's like, well, listen, I've long thought that maybe he'd finish his career in Montreal. And he's like, obviously we want.
Oh, you would, Devil's boy.
And then, then he's like, that I think he called the Avalanche thing with Nathan McKinnon like a pipe dream, but something that would be really fun. The idea of even talking about this, musing about this, in the way that we muse about the fact that Connor McDavid could be a free agent next summer, is so outside of the pale of something that you should talk about in Pittsburgh circles that it's disrespectful to Crosby. That's where I kind of go, okay, but it's the NHL. And people do get traded, and signings do happen. And Ray Bourque won a championship in his 22nd year after playing with the Bruins.
22.
Like, I feel like that's a relevant thing to talk about. And while I think George Larocque was completely out to lunch about his source about, well, Crosby won't be playing with the Penguins by trade deadline. Dude, okay, sure. To say that, guys, he won't ever even consider it. I mean, I think he already has.
I mean, the idea that it's
have.
never crossed his mind is, I think, absurd. But here's where I'll tell you I'm coming around.
Okay, give it to me.
It is romantic.
Absolutely.
It's romantic, and the full circle thing of, that's what Mario did for him. Okay, great.
Like he could be McKenna. McKenna could be living in his basement next year the way he lived in Mario's basement.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, though. To have a truly... I question whether or not the return for Sidney Crosby would be enough for it to be worth it. Which is, I know, a wild thing to say, because think of the bounty you could get for Sidney Crosby. Well, you're not getting the first overall pick. That's not what
They're going to have that anyway.
Well, you have a chance.
They're going to get it.
You have a chance. I think Crosby.
They're going to get it. It's going to be their third straight generation with a generational player at first overall.
They're going to get Gavin McKenna.
Absolutely, they're going to get Gavin McKenna.
That's so crazy.
I already know. I feel it in my bones.
That is insane. So there's that. But let's say they don't. Let's say they never get him. The picks you're getting for Crosby are high 20s at best. So you get I don't even know. The bounties that we saw for ridiculous trades in our youth, I don't think are available today. There's only one return I've seen for a player in recent memory that made me go, holy shit.
Tanner Jeannot.
Well, yeah, you know what? That was insane. Here's an entire draft class for this third liner maybe.
For 7 goals.
Dude, insane. No, from this past deadline, a first and Cal Ritchie for Brock Nelson.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
What about the 2 firsts and 2/3 and Logan Stankoven for Rantanen? I mean, I do think those deals are out there, Steve. When the player is special enough.
But
You don't think Crosby could get more than Brock Nelson?
I think he absolutely
I
could.
don't think he could get more than Rantanen.
If you're
Interesting.
Rantanen's a lot younger. You're
Yeah.
getting, how many seasons are you getting of Sid? I think optimistically 3. Mm-hmm. If you traded him today.
Yeah.
so
Optimistically 3.
So you don't think, if Kyle Dubas called, let's say, Joe Sakic, or he called Kent Hughes, or he called whoever Crosby might end up on, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, and let's say they have all their picks, because I don't need to go into Puckpedia and do that research.
Well, a lot of the contending teams don't have them.
I'll take your top 2 or 3 prospects, and I'll take your first 2 or 3 picks for the next 3 years while Crosby's playing. And tell me that anybody says no to that. Nobody says no to that.
I think the teams that wouldn't say no to that have already spent it. Colorado doesn't have shit. Florida doesn't have shit. Selfishly, the Leafs don't have shit. A lot of these teams, their cup runneth over right now. When the friggin' music,
I think Montreal does.
when the music stops, Montreal is interesting.
And he grew up a Habs fan.
He did grow up a Habs fan. Okay? That's there. But do we need to trade Crosby? Because Malkin's going to get a shitload. Mm-hmm. Raquel's going to get a shitload.
I think Raquel might get the most.
Maybe. Rust.
Boatload.
Shitload. And you're still, even at his age and cap hit, probably going to get assets for Karlsson. Right?
How?
Well, how'd the Sharks do it? Right?
Well, he came off a Norris Trophy year. I'm not spending assets
He
on a
still
guy
had
who
over
skips
50
camp.
points.
Yeah, and he skipped camp.
Still had over 50 points.
He's
the GM still a
stewarded
special
him
player.
at the press conference at the end of the season and said,
Yeah, because he can't shut up.
His ambitions need to match his process. That's insane. What an insane quote.
The Leafs went from the most experienced GM in the history of hockey who never speaks to the most youngest and inexperienced who will not shut the fuck up. right? He probably shouldn't have said all that. You're going to get assets for Karlsson.
Yeah.
So let's say you do an unreal job. Dinger. Like with all the picks, all the prospects, all the everything. Wouldn't it be nice to have Crosby there to help usher him in? Because the mistake that so many of these teams around the league are making, Buffalo, is
The perpetual bottom out.
there's no one there for the kids. Man, Connor Bedard last year, Charlie
Foligno.
looked like he was in a
Nick Foligno is what they gave him.
And Jesse,
and is he signed for next year?
did you see the report, by the way, too, that apparently Chicago were really unhappy with the veterans, some of the veterans that they signed with the
'cause
effort and process
weren't
they
good.
put in? No, not just that. Is that they weren't happy with their attitudes.
Charlie was in a better mood when I met him at the shelter.
Your dog.
My
Former
dog,
dog.
who's dead. Way to bring up that he's dead, Adam. Thank you. But he was in a better mood when we met him at the shelter than
Connor Bedard in that
most
penalty
of
box.
the pictures I saw of Connor Bedard.
Yep.
Kid looked miserable.
Yep.
Nick Foligno's a UFA after this season.
There you go. Probably making, I think, the sun and also the moon
I think 4.5.
and future considerations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have the cap space and you need like tax-paying adults over 30 on your team sometimes.
Right.
And they didn't really have any. You could do a lot worse than Sidney Crosby. They've already started. They're way behind. But they've already started trading those four. Like Pittsburgh might be watering down the market by themselves. You know? Oh, why would I trade assets for Rust when I could get Raquel? Oh, that's the same team? Shit. Dubas is in a wonderful spot, and he could spread this out over the year. He could trade Ricard Raquel in July. He could trade Rust in August. He could trade Malkin in January, and he could trade Karlsson. You could spread it out beautifully like some teams have. Calgary did a wonderful job a couple years ago. And then you have Sidney Crosby at the helm of it all. And Letang is also there, right? Who knows if he goes or he stays. Maybe you have one guy leading the way for the forwards, one guy leading the way for the defense. I get it. I understand it. And who knows? Maybe they turn it around real quick and Crosby feels young again and he just won gold in Italy, hopefully, and he's rejuvenated. And you know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. And he plays another year. You see how easy it is to get romantic about this? And why would you, to say it's a bad idea would be to bet against Sidney Crosby, which is just not something I'm willing
Now
to
that is a bad idea.
do. It's just not something I'm willing to
Yes.
do. That's how it could work. And I just think the return is, no matter what, it's going to be underwhelming. Like even those Rantanen picks, they're going to be shitty picks. They are. Because who'd you get them from? Dallas. Those picks are going to stink. I don't know if any of them were 2025. Those picks probably stunk. You're in the Western Conference Final. There's a bottom 4 pick right away. So you're like, oh, come on, 29. Those picks are going to stink. So I would want a prospect instead of a pick. Because the odds of a blue chipper like Callum Ritchie being better than the 28th overall pick, I like him.
Jesse, I know that you are on the side of he should stay.
Yeah. To offer my opinion on the whole discussion and Yohi there and Adam hoping that he becomes a Toronto Maple Leaf one day.
Always.
Selfish. Toronto media.
Friggin' absolutely, I want Crosby in Toronto. Yeah.
You're the reason Martiner left.
The reason that it's such an interesting conversation is because it's Sidney Crosby. So I feel when there's pushback from Yohi and Pittsburgh writers and Pittsburgh fans about like the speculation around this player's career, I understand it. Because for them, it's like, it's wholly unnecessary for other fans. Like, it's fun for them to go, like, what if he was a Colorado Avalanche and playing with Nate? Like, that's so cool. But from them, looking from the inside out, they're like, this is our franchise icon. We want him to be here forever. it's different than you speculating if Connor McDavid's going somewhere, because he's Sidney Crosby and he's at the end of his career and we know everything's played out and he's at legend status. So for them to push back on the noise around Crosby and the speculation, I understand it because he's different than every other player in the league. So it's not the same when we're guessing where he's going to go. And for me, like
to not even entertain having here's the thing. The reaction for Pittsburgh starting from last summer was, don't even have the conversation. You're an idiot. And for me, I'm like, well, no, I can have the conversation as many times as I want, actually. That's the thing, is like, sadly, you don't understand things in Pittsburgh. Well, I do understand. I do get it. I understand what he's done. And Jesse, I'm sorry
no, go ahead.
to interject, and I want you to continue after this. But I also think it's a completely relevant conversation to talk about somebody like Michael Jordan played for the Wizards. Like it happens. Shit happens, man.
And maybe shouldn't have.
And maybe well, he was pretty good the first year.
Pippen on the Blazers is worse.
Is weird. Is weird. So Jesse.
Yeah, no, like totally people can have the conversations, like the biggest conversations, but for them looking at the conversations, they're like, look at those guys just flapping in the wind. And I get that, because I honestly don't think Crosby wants to go anywhere. I think in his whole heart, his desire would be to stay in Pittsburgh forever. I think that's what also Pittsburgh writers believe, and I think that's what Pittsburgh fans believe. And oftentimes, those things are the same thing. So I feel like them looking at all of the noise, they're like, you guys are wasting your time.
Hold on. Are you telling me certain writers in certain cities that cover certain sports teams are not objective? Don't you dare make that